Have you ever wondered what happens if you refuse to show your ID to the police? Maybe you've seen videos online, or you've heard stories from friends, but the truth isn't always clear. Today, we're going to break it all down in simple terms. We'll talk about your rights, what the police can and can't do, and what could really happen if you say, "No, I don't want to show my ID." Stick around till the end, because knowing your rights can make a huge difference in a real-life situation. Why do police ask for ID? Let's start with a basic question. Why do police officers even ask for your identification? Most of the time, police ask for ID to confirm who you are. This can be during a routine traffic stop, if they think you're a witness to something, or if they suspect you might be involved in a crime. Sometimes, they're just trying to fill out a report or make sure everyone is safe. But even though it sounds routine, the rules around showing your ID can be confusing, and they change depending on where you are. Understanding your rights. Your rights when it comes to showing ID depend a lot on where you live. In some countries, you're required by law to carry identification at all times. In others, you only have to show ID in certain situations. If you're in the United States or the UK, the rules are very different. But one thing is the same. You have rights. And police have rules they must follow too. Stop and identify laws. Let's talk about the United States first. In the U.S., whether you must show ID depends on the state. Some states have what's called stop and identify laws. This means that if a police officer has a reasonable suspicion that you're involved in a crime, they can ask you to identify yourself. But even then, what counts as identifying yourself might just mean giving your name, not necessarily showing a physical ID. In other states, you're not required to show ID at all unless you're driving a car or are being arrested. What about when you're driving? If you're driving a car, things are different. Almost everywhere, if you're behind the wheel, you're required to show your driver's license when asked by the police. Refusing to show your license during a traffic stop can lead to a ticket, a fine, or even arrest in some cases. The reason is simple. Having a license is part of the deal when you drive. Am I being detained? But what if you're just walking down the street? Police may approach and ask for your ID. If you're not being detained, meaning if you're free to go, you usually don't have to answer any questions or show your ID. If you are being detained, which means the officer believes you may be involved in criminal activity, the rules change. In stop and identify states, you may have to provide your name. In others, you don't. A good question to ask is, "Officer, am I being detained or am I free to go?" If you're not being detained, you can politely leave. What could happen if you refuse? So what actually happens if you refuse to show your ID? Here's where it can get complicated. If the police have a legal reason to ask and you refuse, you could be detained longer, ticketed, or even arrested, especially if you're driving. If there is no legal reason, you can't be punished just for refusing. However, refusing might escalate the situation, especially if the officer thinks you're hiding something. Always stay calm, be polite, and know your rights. Tips for handling the situation. So, what should you do if a police officer asks for your ID? Here are a few tips. Stay calm and polite. Ask, "Am I being detained or am I free to go?" If you're required to show ID, hand it over calmly. If you're not required, you can politely decline. Don't argue or get aggressive. Even if you're right, anger can make things worse. Remember, you can record your interaction with the police. If you feel uncomfortable, just let them know you're recording. This protects both you and the officer. Real-life stories, learning from others. Let's look at a couple of real-life examples. Case 1. In Arizona, a man was stopped by police and refused to give his name. Arizona is a stop and identify state. Because he refused, he was detained until his identity was confirmed, but was later released when no crime was found. Case 2. In New York, a woman refused to show her ID during a traffic stop. She was given a ticket for failure to present her license and her car was towed. Case 3. In London, a teenager was stopped and searched and didn't provide his name. Because he wasn't being charged, he was free to go. What if you feel your rights were violated? If you ever feel like the police have violated your rights by demanding ID without a reason, you have options. Write down everything that happened as soon as you can. Get contact info for any witnesses. File a complaint with the police department or seek legal advice. If you were wrongly arrested, you might be able to challenge it in court. Common myths and misunderstandings. Let's clear up a few common myths. I always have to show ID to the police. Not true unless the law requires it in your situation. If I refuse, I'll always get arrested. Not always. Police need a legal reason to detain or arrest you. Being polite doesn't matter. Actually, being respectful and calm always helps your situation, no matter what your rights are. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button and subscribe for more simple legal advice. And remember, knowing your rights is the first step to protecting yourself.